Well, hello everyone and welcome to IBTM Meets, a series of interviews with people from across our industry sector. My name is Hannam, Portfolio Director for IBTM Events, and I'm joined here today with Tracy Halliwell, MBE, who is the Director of Tourism, Convention and Major Events at London & Partners. Tracy, welcome and hello. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Likewise, albeit virtually. Well, so obviously the aim of today, Tracy, is that we're sort of looking to catch up with you and just have a bit of an informal chat around things like your career to date, how you arrived at London & Partners, maybe some thoughts around the industry, how we emerged from the crisis we're currently in, and potentially, you know, sort of looking forward to what the future may hold. So we have a series of questions we've prepared, and if it's okay with you, we'll kick off. Brilliant. Okay. Well, great. Thank you. So firstly, I mean, tell us about your career journey and how you arrived where you are in London & Partners today.
I decided to do a degree in hotel and catering management because I thought it sounded like a really fun thing to do. And I got rejected for a number of psychology courses, so I couldn't do those. So ended up in the hotel world. And spent, 20 years in hotels, had a fabulous time traveling the world, always sales and marketing, but always touching on hospitality and meetings and events. And it was only when I had my first child that I thought, actually, I don't want to go back and do, ridiculous hours in the hotel world anymore. I'd like to do something different. And this opportunity came along to get into destination sales, and who wouldn't want to do that? So I joined London & Partners back in 2006, and have been back since. I've loved it, and I don't think I ever want to go back to anything else in terms of hotels or hospitality. I love the industry, but working on a destination side is just so much fun because you get to see all sides of the business, and particularly on the MICE side. So yeah, it's been a good fun journey to get here, but always in hospitality, always hotels, always meetings and events, and latterly I say destination.
Great, that sounds fantastic. And I think, like most of us, we stumble across this industry, the business events or MICE industry, and indeed travel and tourism. And I think we kind of fall into it. We love it so much, and it's almost a bit of an addiction, and people end up spending so much time in the industry. So it's glad to see. It's good to see you're in that boat as well. I know I certainly am. So great, thank you, Tracy. Okay, now maybe a bit more about the destination itself. How did London carve its niche to be known as what really is the home of technology events together?
That's quite a long but interesting story. So I suppose if you think about it, we really started back in 2008-9, when you had a bunch of really smart, really clever people who were coming out of the corporate world and starting to set up their own digital companies, tech companies. And they'd all started to find this cheap office space around the old Truman Brewery in London, which later became known as the Silicon Roundabout. And all of that startup community really got going kind of 2008, 2009. That was followed up by David Cameron, actually, when he was the Prime Minister. He came along and said, I love this whole burgeoning sector we've got here. And he created an umbrella around it, which was really Tech City. And he created a lot of areas of policy and taxation issues, and really just to push that whole innovation economy. And some amazing companies came out of that. So Skype and Mind Candy and Unruly, and some really, big names of companies. And that tech sector has continued to grow and grow and grow in London. And I think at the last count, we had somewhere in the region of, 240,000 people employed in tech. So suddenly you've got this huge sectoral expertise. Back in 2012, probably, we just had the Olympics, and we were starting to understand how events can really underpin economic growth in a city, and how, the leverage of events and everything they leave behind can be quite amazing. So we took a look at the tech sector and went, this is just an amazing story. Events tell stories, and they create reasons for people to come to study, to invest, to grow, to hold meetings. And we figured that actually tech and digital was a really great space to be. And where better to do it, with all of the expertise we had the speakers, we had the delegates, we had everything else. So we had this idea to create our own festival of tech events. I think at the time it was also quite difficult for a destination to keep continuously winning bids. And London has never been a city, sadly, that has subvention funding. It's not the cheapest destination in the world. So rather than keep bidding for things, we thought we would create our own. So in 2014, actually, the first London Tech Week was born. And we worked with UBM initially. We're not event producers, but we certainly had we could facilitate and we could bring the right people to the table. So with UBM, we created London Tech Week 2014. And I think in that first year, we had something like 200 events. We attracted about 30,000 people. And over the years, it's gradually grown. So last year was amazing. We had 58,000 delegates coming to one event or another. There were over 300 events across the city. And they were everything from, fireside chats to big investor conferences. But then throughout the year, on an average year, London, outside of London Tech Week, will do probably somewhere in the region of 150 odd other tech or digital meetings, because people are coming because of that expertise and knowledge. They're coming to learn from their peers. They're coming because you've got a delegate base already here. Plus, there's a huge student population that are studying relevant courses. So there's this whole ecosystem that really works. And, people come to London, they have a tech event or they attend a tech event, and they always take something away with them, which then helps to grow. So on the back of an event, we've also been able to grow London's expertise and reputation as one of the tech centres of the world, which is phenomenal.
Excellent. Well, that's a great story indeed. Thank you for sharing that. And I suppose, sort of continuing that theme with the destination, what makes London an ideal host city to bring in major events and conventions and such?
Yeah, I think it probably comes down to connectivity. It's so easy to get to London from anywhere in the world, with direct flights coming from so many different worldwide destinations. It's always been seen as the springboard to Europe. So for long haul destinations who want to come and experience the European side of it. Language, I think the fact that English is the language of business. We speak English here, so any delegate doesn't have to worry about 2 or 3 different languages when they're coming in. We've also got the ecosystem in terms of 140 odd thousand hotel bedrooms in London, which is probably one of the biggest hotel product outside of Las Vegas, actually. We've also got venues, so we've got 3,500 venue spaces in London, from small to big. We've got Excel, which has got the big ICC there, so we've got everything at all sizes. And I think actually the fact that we've got 8 million people live in and around London, or in Greater London, that means you've got a pull of people who are going to attend exhibitions, they're going to attend conferences. And because London is a global business city, I think it's one of those places that people will come to an event because they can do other business when they're in town as well. So you tend to find that any big global meeting that happens in London, we always get a delegate uplift on the previous year. And we always tend to have a higher proportion of actually Asian attendees, I think, because they feel comfortable in London and it's a place where they're doing other business. So companies do find that the draw of people from all over the world is very high when you bring an event to London. So a combination of all of those things, I think, makes it a good global city for meetings and events.
Great, thank you. Well, I have to say, having called London home for over 20 years, I couldn't agree more. It's a wonderful place to work and live, that's for sure. So thank you, Tracy. I hear there's some potentially exciting news regarding even further innovation in London with a new event concept, which I hear is coming soon. What can you tell us about this,
I can't tell you too much, otherwise I'd have to shoot you. What I can say is we always thought, after the success of London Tech Week, and there's some amazing things that are showcased at Tech Week. And how could you bring that into the consumer world? How could you share some of that great content with a consumer audience? So we'd always had that at the back of our mind. Then that little thing called Brexit started to happen, and we started to think about how could we make sure that London was still relevant in the world? And one of the big expertises that London and the rest of the UK has is this amazing, innovative event sector. And we are home to some of the most innovative companies in terms of AI and VR and data technology and security, and there's so much happening in that data and digital world. And in fact, another one is big health tech. So all of the things that actually humans worry about or get excited about, a lot of that stuff is being thought about and created and envisioned in London. So we then kind of put the two together and thought, wouldn't it be amazing to do a big consumer festival that started to think about what it is to be a human and how could London play in that. So using London as a playground to showcase some amazing stuff. So think about kind of an urban Burning Man, I suppose, is a vision that we. So our hope, we've been working on this for a while now, but our hope is that we could launch that next year. So fingers crossed, depending on what's happening in the world and whether people are willing to travel to events and festivals, that will be coming. So yeah, keep your eyes open for that one.
Great. Well, we can't wait to hear that. Keep us posted for sure, and maybe that's another conversation for IBTM Meets further down the road. Sounds very, very exciting. Okay, we're going to change tack slightly now, Tracy, and we would like to know a little bit about your thoughts around London. So what's special to you, I suppose. So maybe kick off. What's your favourite restaurant in London?
I did have an answer for that one, but sadly, it's not there anymore. But my favourite restaurant in London always was, there was a fabulous restaurant called Les Trois Garçons, which was over in East London. I don't know if you've ever been. It was just the most amazing. It was more the ambience, and it was run by three men who were interior designers and fashionistas, and the whole restaurant was just full of curiosities, and you just couldn't get through there without being amazed by all the stuff that was around you. So, and the food was also very good. Sadly, that one's no longer there. So I'm going to plump for a different avenue altogether. So one of the other things that London is really quite cool at is things like secret cinema and immersive experiences and all that stuff. And we've got an amazing one called the Chamber of Flavours.
Okay.
So, every year they come out with a new series of the Chamber of Flavours, and it's a secret dining experience. So you don't know until the day before where you're going to go, but you book your experience in advance. You get given instructions the day before you're supposed to be there, and you get told what to wear and where to turn up, and you go through this. All I can say is it's like theatrical dining. So they do lunch and dinner, and you go through this experience, having your different courses in a different environment. Let's put it that way. So that I've done that 2 or 3 times now, and that is quite amazing.
Okay, great. Sounds fantastic. One I need to add to my list quite clearly. And just another question: if we were, arriving in London for the first time, never visited the city before, what one activity would you encourage us to undertake?
I always answer this one with telling people to get on the river. If you take either just a trip on a clipper, or if you do a bateau dining experience, or you can do paddleboarding, you can do a rib tour, but you see so much more of London from the river, and you do it in a fairly short space of time. And I think it's only then that you really get to experience the vastness that is London and the different. Just the different elements of London. I think it's a great way of doing it. So yeah, I would say whatever it is, just go on the river and experience it from there. You can even do tour ships on the river. You can do all sorts of things.
Great, and absolutely, I've done that many times myself, sort of living very near the river. I think the other thing as well, Tracy, of course, is that it's probably the quickest way to get around sometimes within the city. So that's another advantage of using the boats for sure. Okay, thank you very much. And so now let's talk maybe a little bit about the MBE. What was it like when you heard about the MBE, and how did you find out?
I mean, I just literally got home one day and there was a letter with a big ER written on the front of it. And my first thought was, oh my God, I've been summoned to court for something, the High Court.
Oh, the tax man.
And I opened this letter and it just said, that you can't tell anybody, but we're going to or would you like to accept, the member of the British Empire? And I was kind of like, I was so taken aback, I couldn't speak for a few minutes. Not that I was allowed to tell anybody anyway. And yeah, so that was it. It was in 2014 now, 2014. So you have to sit on it for a good 3 or 4 months. You can't tell anybody. And then, so of course I said yes, I'd like to have it. And my investiture was at Windsor Castle. So some of them are at Buckingham Palace, some are at Windsor Castle. Mine was at Windsor Castle, and it was actually with Prince William. So that was amazing. And I was able to take my whole family. So my daughters at the time were quite young. They were probably 10 and 12, maybe a bit younger than that. So it was a great time for them to be there as well. And no, it was great. As I got to Prince William, he did, I mean, 60, 70 people at this investiture, and he speaks to each and every one of them. He has a conversation with you. And he said to me, I understand that you're responsible for bringing, I think it was 30,000 heart specialists at the time. He was talking about the European Society of Cardiology meeting. And my mouth just dropped open. I went, how did you know that? And he said, I've done my homework. So it was amazing. For each and every one of us, he knew a little bit about who we were and what we'd done. And then we just had a conversation about tourism in London, and I apologised for clogging up Kensington Palace and all the rest of it. And that was it. And then we did a tour of the palace afterwards, or the castle. And my daughter at the time, she was the little one. In fact, I think she was probably about 8. And the throne, we were in the throne room, and she took one look at the throne and went, "Can I?" And I went, No, you can't do that. And there was one of the guards in the palace went, "Go on then, quick." So she ran down to the front of the Queen's throne. And we weren't allowed to take pictures or anything else. But that is an amazing, so she'll remember that forevermore. But
Absolutely.
On the Queen's throne at Windsor Castle. I think that was better than the badge that I got, actually.
Fantastic. Sounds like a very unforgettable experience for not just you, but the family as well. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Tracy. Okay, so now just finally, maybe one more question I think we have time for. So maybe a little bit about understanding a little bit more about London and partners, and maybe your vision for the future. So what do you think potentially the future holds from both your perspective and that of the destination?
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously changed our business planning quite dramatically. One of the first things we did was we put London virtually. So we created a Virtually London website, which is actually a lot of fun, because you can visit London and spend time with us without actually leaving your front room. So, you can go and feed some animals at the zoo. You can go behind the scenes at the Natural History Museum. You can take in a concert at the Opera House. All of those great things. And we've now morphed that into a Virtually London Convention Bureau website. So any of our partners who have got virtual footage, we're showcasing on there. I think that's something we should have had anyway. So this has fast-tracked a lot of the digital expertise that we need to use. So I think we'll be a lot more digital in the future. We've all learned to cope so well, I think, with video conferencing and Zooming and all the rest of it, that again, it was going to come anyway. So I think what we've done is we've just fast-tracked a lot of stuff that would have come. I think a lot of companies were starting to think about their carbon footprints and everything. So it's just made us rethink who we are and what we do. A lot of our venues are starting to make sure they've got video conferencing facilities, that they've got all of that stuff. They're also upping all of the hygiene and the safety, and thermal imaging, scanning machines, and all of this stuff is all now being looked at. So I think the future is going to be brighter than we perhaps think it is going to be now. I mean, I think hybrid meetings will definitely be a thing of the future. But I think for London, my hope is that we're still a global events city, and will be one of the hybrid meeting venues, even if you now do something in London, Paris and New York instead of all in London or all in Paris. I think you'll find a lot more of that, where we link up different audiences around the world. But I think we're a resilient bunch in the meetings industry, and particularly in London. It's such a huge part of who we are and what we do that I can't see it ever going away. I think we'll just have to get cleverer and more innovative and more creative about how we do things. So, you know, there are now things like drive-in cinemas and, you know, a pub in a box and all sorts of really fun things that are coming out of it. And I think a lot of that will stay and we'll use it and morph it into the future. For London and Partners, we'll have much more of a focus, obviously, on the domestic local market for a little bit. So we haven't really done much of that. We've been very internationally focused. I think now the time is right to concentrate on London and Londoners first. So we're working on programs about how we can get Londoners to get out and back spending money in the economy, which is then, you know, going to help to show the world that London is back up and running. The domestic UK market will be very important to us. And then finally, we're still not taking our eye off the ball of international business. And we are taking inquiries. You know, there are inquiries coming through, both for the back end of this year and into next year and beyond. So I think the future is fine. I think it's just this short term, how do we change our business models and react to things? And we have some great partners and some great innovative event companies in London who are working on exactly that.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing that, Tracy. Great insight indeed. Well, that concludes the interview today. So again, Tracy, a massive thank you for joining us. That was really good fun and some really great insightful answers into both your journey and also that of the destination. So thank you very, very much for joining us. And I look forward to meeting you again very soon, hopefully face to face. And as I say, it's been great to have you today and we'll catch up very, very soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.